Hello friends, and welcome back to my YouTube channel where today I'm going to be showing you how I make my Geode style dice sets. Now, of course, there are so many different methods and techniques for how different makers make Geode style dice. This is just how I choose to do it. And this is also definitely a bit of an advanced technique. You will be needing a Dremel with a drill bit, and you will be drilling into dice blanks, which can be relatively dangerous, so please be sure that you feel comfortable and confident in your abilities before attempting a set of dice like this one. That being said, let's jump right on into how the heck I made this Geode dice set. So to begin, I'm doing a black dirty pour. I just colored my resin with this Just Resin black pigment paste that is very, very messy. And then I'm doing a little sparkle of this Lumiere Luster Fortune Teller. Basically, it's a gold glitter with like a little bit of a pink reflect that I like. So I'm just kind of gently tapping that along one side of the black, and on the other side I'm going to do a drop of Pinata Blanco Blanco, which if you've seen any videos I use in every single dice pour I have ever done. It is my go-to white alcohol ink. I think it's the best out there. I use it for everything. And I'm just doing kind of a loose dirty pour style pour here where I'm going to be doing little circles with my hand to get some nice squiggles and streaks in the resin. And I'll just be refilling this little cup as much as I need it. Here I'm adding a little bit more glitter because I ran out. And I'm filling my molds about 3/4 of the way full, and then I'm pressurizing them without their caps on to leave a little gap. And that little gap is going to be the starting point for where I'm going to drill. Because I know I'm drilling these blanks, I don't want to fill them all the way because that's just more work. I would rather leave a little bit of room to kind of help with that beginning of the geode carved out space, then have it totally full and have to do more drilling. Speaking of drilling, of course, this is kind of the most dangerous part of the process. So again, you are handling a power tool very close to your fingers. You need to be careful when you are doing this. It's pretty intimidating. So just go slowly, carefully, carve out whatever space you want. You can do a really, really deep geode interior, or you can do a really shallow one. It'll totally depend on your own personal preference. Also, obviously, you want to be wearing face protection and eye protection when you are doing this. And here, when I have the center carved out to a point that I am happy, I then go along the edges and just make the edges nice and rough and jagged to really bring it all together. And when I'm happy, move on to the next one, rinse and repeat. Additionally, I'm not wearing gloves here because I was warned that it's a bit of a safety hazard due to the ability of the glove to get caught in the power tool, so that's why that is. But go ahead and carve out all of the blanks, and then it's time for the fun part, which is decorating, and my lighting is terrible for this, but that's okay because it's really the technique that matters. So with a little bit of Mod Podge on a brush, I'm just kind of randomly brushing the glue on certain points of the blank wherever I feel like. I'm not going over the entire surface right now because I want some color variation by using different flakes and glitters. So just randomly putting some glue on, and then I am dumping a bunch of these iridescent flakes into this little cavity so that they can stick, and later on I'll be brushing all of the excess out, so I'm not worried about overfilling this at all. Once I feel that I have flakes over all of the different glue, I then give it a good little spankin' back over the top of the flake container so that it'll catch any of the excess that I can smack off. I call that one done, move on to the next, and once again, rinse and repeat. A lot of dice making is doing the same exact thing, just in different dice. So randomly putting on Mod Podge, filling in the center area with flakes, spanking them out. And here you can see how I am brushing the flakes out. Really not complicated. I just grab any type of brush and give it a little sweeping. For the first layer, I do it over the flake container to try to catch as much as possible. For the following layers, I actually don't brush it out over the container because I don't want the container contaminated by the other color of flakes that I am layering on. So here, I get it started on my second layer, which are these holographic gold flakes from Solar Color Dust. I'm putting my Mod Podge largely in the areas that I saw that did not get covered from my first flakes. So looking for those blank little gaps and areas, and then doing a little bit of brushing over some of the flakes that are already there to start creating the layered color shifting type of design, filling it in with a whole bunch of flakes, tapping the excess back into the container right now, and then I will set that aside when I think it's done and move on to the next dye. Here, this is layer number 3. I'm going back to some iridescent flakes, this time with more of a pink tone, and by now I'm sure you get the gist that really this process is just put down some Mod Podge, put some flakes on top of that Mod Podge, really pack them in there, shake off the excess, let that dry, brush off all the rest of the excess, time for the next layer. And of course, depending on what you're going for, you can do geodes where you do Mod Podge the entire inside and just do one color of flakes. I know some people do like all holographic gold interiors. You could do a split color. There's a lot of variety that you can do here. It's totally up to your imagination, what types of colors and effects you want to go for and how you decide to achieve that. So I will spare you from watching 5 more minutes of me doing the same exact thing and say that we've got that process down. So when you are done, it is then time to cast these blanks. And I actually choose to cast them back into my blank molds. But before I do that, I clean up the sides a little bit just by taking a piece of packing tape and running it across, or dabbing it, I suppose, across the different sides of the dice to get up any excess glitter or flakes or anything like that. I just want the sides to be as clean as possible. And then these can get shoved back into my blank molds for a second casting. You can try to position these just straight into your dice molds. I've done it before, but it is very difficult, and I did gouge my dice molds because I positioned one of these incorrectly and had to drag it back out. So I just think that this is a safer way of going about getting workable blanks without running the risk of ruining your dice molds. Also, the shadow from my phone, very inconvenient, but not much to be said here, really. I am just popping all of these blanks back into their blank molds with the geode side up so that I can then fill that with resin and get them all solidified into full blanks. So the next step here is super simple. Once all of the geode blanks are back into the blank molds, I just top them off with some resin. I make sure to overfill so that there's plenty of room for me to pop bubbles and make sure that these are as degassed as possible. So very simple, pouring some resin, degassing really quickly with my heat gun, trying to get as many bubbles out as possible because my blank molds are a cap mold, which is more prone to bubbles and voids. Then I will just be capping them off like you would cap off any sort of cap mold by rolling it on from one side to make sure everything is fit, solid down, no lifted caps, nothing like that. And then after the lid is on, it can go ahead and go in my pressure pot for 24 hours until it is completed with its curing. So this is going to be a 3-cast method. It is a bit long, but again, I promise doing this extra step of casting them in your blank molds, in my opinion, is definitely worth it to preserve your dice molds as much as possible. After 24 hours, it is then time to take the blanks out of the blank molds, which I don't know if I've ever shown my blank molds on this channel before, so this is what it looks like when I take the cap off. Afterward, it is just peeling up all of this little excess flashing. The term flashing in dice making refers to what you're seeing me pick off here. It is all of this kind of excess resin that is not part of the design, but is left over, and all dice molds have different types of flashing. So after I get all of the flashing off, it is time to take the dice out of the blank molds, and then we're going to give them a really quick little cleanup, and it'll finally be time to cast them for the 3rd time in my actual dice molds. To clean up my blanks, pretty simple. I just take an X-Acto knife. Obviously, be careful, it is a knife. I've cut myself plenty of times. And I just run over my cap edges until everything is relatively smooth. The nice thing about blanks is that they are quite forgiving. They don't have to be perfect, and also, as you can see, mine are matte. I don't polish my blank masters, but you just want to get things relatively, again, even, no jagged edges that are going to scrape against your mold or throw anything off. Then it is time to cast. We're almost done, so just like you would cast any blanks in your dice molds, I'm filling my molds up about a third to half of the way with plain old clear resin, and then I will be popping my blanks into the molds. I did want to show how I filled this little void on my D6. It's a little hard to see with the camera, but there was a void there, so anytime I have a small void in a blank, I just, before putting it into my dice molds, cover it with resin, make sure that all of the bubbles are out of that, and then I put it in so that that void is filled and it doesn't capture a bubble that can't escape because of the way that blanks are positioned. So really our final step here is to pop all of your blanks into your dice molds. Also, I know I've gotten a lot of requests to do a tutorial on how I make my dice molds. I will be doing that. I do need to make new dice molds anyway, so probably in the next week or two that video should pop up. But I have a shorter form video on my TikTok, for anyone who is impatient and really wants to know, but don't worry, I hear you. I hear that you want to know about the molds. I will definitely do a video about the molds. I really love my dice molds, so, if more people can use them and work with them well, then that's great. Alright, so to finish it up, once all of our dice are nice and snug in the dice molds, I then just hit the top with my heat gun again to pop any of those excess bubbles. Degassing is really important, especially with blanks, because bubbles get caught very, very easily because they can't escape easily because of the blank in the dice mold. So, important step there. Then it is just capping off my molds, making sure everything is positioned correctly, popping them back in the pressure pot for one final 24-hour stretch, and then they can come out and we will see how they look. Well, I suppose to be fair, if you're watching this video, you already know how they look, but I didn't at this point. So, once the dice molds are out of my pressure pot, I can take all of the caps off, take off all of this flashing. Again, remember, flashing looks different depending on your style of mold. And then I can finally move into the reveal to see what the heck these geodes look like. Bada bing, bada boom, there they are. I'm always a little bit nervous right before the demolding, but man, the colors in this set came out so nicely. I really think having the dark black base and then that super vibrant gold, pink color shifting interior is just so vibrant and beautiful. And I am so happy with them. So with that being said, that is all I have for you today. I know it was a very long video, but hey, it's a very long casting process for this style of set. So with that is all that I have for you today. That is all, she says, like it's not a 14-minute dice making video. But that is all that I have for you for this one. Of course, if you have any ideas, suggestions, or requests for videos that you would like to see me tackle at some point in the future, I would love to hear them. Please leave them below in the comments. Maybe consider dropping a like if you liked the video, or subscribing if you want to see more. And with that, I hope that you enjoyed, I hope that you learned something, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!